where do we start with England and this debacle?
Well, that was the worst performance I've ever seen from an England team. Ever.
The long wait is over. A Wembley roar to hail England's history makers.
Hello and welcome to the Board Breakdown Podcast, the Road to Berlin series. With me, Johnny, Dana, Matt and Tom. We are the England podcast that gives you all of your England chatter in a podcast. And England kicked off their win with a win in the first game of the Euros, courtesy of a goal from Jude Bellingham. Guys, as always, one key takeouts as we kick things off with a win. Dana, do you want to go first? What's your one key takeout from the win yesterday?
Work to do, probably. A win, a good start to the Euros campaign, but a lot of work to do, I think. And it's probably a good thing that we haven't peaked too early. I keep hearing that, actually, in the aftermath of the game yesterday. I think there's a lot of development to be done, and I think England will definitely develop and grow into the tournament. So there were good parts of yesterday's game. There were things that I'd like to see improved as well. But yeah, work to do, definitely.
Matt, I'll come to you next. What's your one key takeout?
Just that a win's a win. I think it's important with your first game just to get that first 3 points on the board. It pretty much secures a place in the knockouts, really. Takes a lot of early pressure off as well, especially given our form coming into the tournament. And I think the clean sheet as well maybe has gone under the radar a little bit because we were struggling for them in the build-up too. So there's a few little positives in there, but obviously the performance was pretty grim for the most part. So I'm not too worried that the performance wasn't great. I'm more just happy for the result. But yeah, obviously, if we want to get far in this tournament, we're going to have to improve and be a lot better than what we were for large parts last night.
Yeah, then round off with you, Tom. What was your one key takeout? You went with us, of course. You were with Papa Green.
It was Father's Day.
On Father's Day. Yeah, on Father's Day. But play brew with us on Thursday. So, but anyway, what was your one key takeout?
Well, my one key takeout is going to be the same all the way through this tournament, and it's just going to be it's coming home. Hopefully, if I say it enough, I'll manifest it and it'll actually come true. But yeah, it was a good win, good clean sheet. I never kind of really read too much into early tournament games, and I always kind of get the same sort of feeling with them, and it's always a kind of subdued, like almost like it's an international qualifier type game for the first, and it will ramp up as the tournament goes on. I'd have probably been feeling the nerves a lot more if we'd have lost that, but no, it was a good win to get us off to a good start, and yeah, hopefully we can just keep that going against Denmark and Slovenia.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Slovenia game because I'll just be singing "He's Slovenian" for a good 90 minutes and then watch him spanner a ball from over the bar from like 2 yards. Good old Andras Sporra. But I think for me, one key takeout, I would say the win was bigger than what people think it was. I think the 3 points is a massive step, obviously, through when you wanted to progress through the tournament, but also the clean sheet was massive for me. And I also thought it showed two signs of England or maybe three signs of England in that game where one, the attacking threat we can potentially have, two, defending was a lot better than we anticipated it to be, and third, we actually had a bit of shithousery in our game, which I think we've needed over the last couple of tournaments, especially in the Southgate's reign. We've been a bit too nice in games, and it was nice to kind of see us, give it a little bit back, be in a physical game, and well, even though we got snapped every 3 passes, it was still a really good way to win in different circumstances. But that means that Gareth Southgate, of course, has won all of his first games in the tournament, the first England manager to do so. But Dana, how would you assess the game against Serbia yesterday? Apart from the gin, of course, you had the pizza, you had the fries, you were singing "We Are the East Stand" in the corner.
I definitely wasn't. I nearly got to that point, but not quite. I needed one more double gin and lemonade.
Well, next time you'll have a double gin and lemonade.
Yeah.
We Are the East Stand.
I'll need it. I'll need it for the knockouts if we get there.
Oh, we will, of course we will. But assessment of the performance yesterday, of course, you had me behind you just going, shit house or like giving you random terms. But how would you assess the actual win in itself?
Yeah, I think it was good enough in the end. England don't tend to win their opening game at the Euros. That's only the second time that they've done that in the last 11 tournaments. And I think maybe a lot of people wanted England to set out stall from the off and really, really kind of inflict the opposition to England's kind of individual and probably team superiority. But it was good enough, and it obviously puts us in an advantageous position given that Denmark and Slovenia drew. I think there were good parts of the game. I enjoyed watching Bukayo Saka. I really, really, really love Bukayo Saka. I think down the right-hand side in the first 30 minutes, whilst England were pretty dominant within that spell, I thought he was good. Would have liked to have seen more combinations from him, Trent Alexander-Arnold drifting into that right space, and then Kyle Walker at right back. I thought Bellingham was excellent. Matt Gay, he was good, obviously stepping in for the injured Harry Maguire, who hasn't obviously isn't in the squad. Declan Rice played well in midfield as well. But Matt, you said this during the game in the second half that England looked leggy. And to be honest, there was a period in the first 45 minutes after the 30-minute mark where Serbia grew into it. And I think come the end of the first half, they definitely gained confidence. So I think that last phase of the first 45 minutes was a prelude to what happened in the second half. And I think Gareth Southgate said it after the game that he was concerned that England might take their foot off the gas or run out of gas, is what he said, because he was a little bit worried about the fitness of the team. And I think we definitely saw England defend deeper, which is another thing that Gareth Southgate mentioned. And I do feel like we were a bit fortunate at points. You know, Mitrovic's chance after Trent's heavy touch gave the ball away in the first half. It has to be said that was their only chance in the first half. Gay, he got rolled by Vlahovic in the second half. He drilled a really nice ball across the face of goal that fortunately for England, no one got onto. And then there was a cutback. It might have been Vlahovic again. It was kind of awkwardly dealt with by Pickford and Gahey, who at that point was sitting on an invisible stool. It was very awkward defending. But yeah, it got the job done in the end. And I think that given that Serbia kind of pressed on us, they were very aggressive. You know, every time Harry Kane got the ball in the second half, by the way, 22 touches in the second half compared to his 2 in the first. He was fouled 6 times in that game. They were very, very aggressive on us. And I feel like they had some decent, like they played some decent balls into the box, but England defended quite doggedly in the end and obviously managed to see it through. I keep seeing people say that we created chances. I don't think we did, really. Like, when I was thinking about it, you obviously had the goal, the Kane chance in the second half. There was a run from Kyle Walker where he kind of off balance, kind of cut the ball back and no one got onto it. Because a problem that I saw yesterday is that our attacking players kept attacking the same spaces. And in that move, I said it during the game that both Foden and Kane tried to get to the near post at the same time. So, yeah, obviously the positive is that we won. I think there were some good individual displays. The first 30 minutes was good, but there's obviously a few little issues with the kind of setup, which I don't know. I suppose we might get into a little bit later.
We definitely will. But yeah, so Tom, I think Dana alluded to it there on the contrasting performances. I think the first half and the second half as well. You know, in that first 30 minutes, England were flowing, they were passing the ball around really well, and then there was that stoppage in play, wasn't there, when there was an injury, Serbia's came out a different team after that 30 minutes. But why do you think we seen contrasting performances in the game?
So yeah, I'm not quite sure. On my drive home yesterday, I was listening to Talk Sport straight afterwards, and surprisingly, they made quite a good point on it, where they were kind of saying early in that game, and you're talking the first 15, 20 minutes, that was our chance to really stamp our authority on the game. That was, you know, you're coming out against a team who know the, you know, one-on-one way better than them. So we've got a kind of psychological advantage there. But the longer that goes on, I mean, even though we did score, the longer that goes on and we don't stamp our authority on the game, their belief's going to grow. And like you said there was the injury, and then around the 30-minute mark, it starts to turn. I feel like they go in half-time at 1-0 down, and they know that they can do something. And I noticed a big difference from them second half. I thought they were they used their physicality as a team quite well anyway. I don't recall too many goal kicks being won in the air by Harry Kane. There was always the massive centre-backs on him. A lot of our players that have one touch of the ball, and within that couple of seconds, they've already got someone on them going through them. And I think when you look at that with a fitness issue as well, that can psychologically affect you. If you know that you don't have the fitness to kind of get away from these players, but they're already on you as soon as you get the ball, they're going through you, then that's going to kind of separate you. You defend deeper, as you say, and we ended up not being able to get out of our box by the end of the second half and hanging on. So I wonder how much of it was psychological, and just that belief and confidence from Serbia growing throughout the game.
Yeah, it definitely was. I think when you do press more aggressively, you can create more chances. And that first 30 minutes when they sat really deep, for me, it was more so like they're just going to let us play and try and maybe even try and feel England out a little bit, because it's a different what people are used to. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in midfield, and how is he going to come and how is he going to be dictating play? But I think when the pressed right, they're able to put England into mistakes, and it just definitely felt in that second half. Although we needed legs, I think with Conor Gallagher coming on, and Jarrod Bourne coming on, I think there was still subs that we could have potentially made in the game, or even try to adjust things. And Matt, do you think that Southgate could have changed anything in his system or formation in that second half to make England more compatible in those moments? Because it felt like there was different people in different positions that didn't feel right. It felt a bit sticky. It didn't really work right.
Yeah, I think second half we needed a bit more energy within the team. I was pretty happy with the substitution to bring Gallagher on for Alexander-Arnold. I think there's certainly pros, but also cons to having Alexander-Arnold in midfield. And I think when you're wanting to take the game to the opposition, create chances, or unlock a defence, he's your man. And I think it's good to have him in there. But when you're wanting to defend and you may be losing the midfield battle, need a bit more legs or physicality in there, I was happy with the Gallagher change. But I still felt like we needed something on the left-hand side. I thought Bowen come on, and I didn't expect to see Bowen come on the right, but I think resting Saka might be a pretty good decision. But yeah, we were pretty much ineffective down the left-hand side the whole game. I think obviously Trippier is not naturally going to play down the left-hand side with him being a right footer. And I know we'll get on to Phil Foden, which is the biggest sort of mystery within the England team at the minute. So yeah, we don't know what will happen there. But I think within the context of this game, we definitely needed some more energy and legs down the left-hand side, maybe an out ball to get us up the pitch, get us in behind, just get us out, because from the 67th minute onwards, I felt like we were playing like we were holding on desperately in the final minutes of stoppage time. Every time we received the ball, we were just hoofing it long. We seemed to lack any kind of composure. We just wanted rid of it, almost like we were sort of lacking a bit of confidence within ourselves to keep the ball and pass around Serbia. So I think having someone like Gordon or Eze on the left-hand side, just to really put some pressure on their fullbacks, use their pace and directness to get us up there and maybe create something, was definitely what I thought was missing, and might be something to look at for just future games going forward as well. Because as you say, it was all down that right-hand side, and when you're relying on just one side, it can make it quite easy to defend against. So I think we need to be a bit more diverse going forward, and that's the Phil Foden mystery, isn't it? What do we do on that left-hand side, which I'm sure we'll get onto.
I'll come to him in just a moment, but I just want to talk about the defence for a minute, Tom, because a lot was said prior to that game against Serbia, and probably prior to the tournament as well, as England's defence, we're going to be really leaky. How's Matt Gahey going to look next to John Stones? But how impressed were you with England yesterday? Probably the back four, and then also there was that back three as well when we were in possession and you've seen the wing back go forward. But were you impressed of how, although we were under pressure, how defensively solid England were?
I was quite impressed by it. I think looking at the defence, me and my dad were saying just before the game, as much as we can understand the reasons for Harry Maguire being left out, we still would have preferred him being there. But No, Macway did a good job. Kieran Trippier being on the left-hand side, I feel like this is a storyline I've seen multiple times at other tournaments, because I don't know if it's just happened once or if it's just like permanent Mandela effect. I don't recall Luke Shaw ever being fit for the start of a tournament. He just kind of comes in midway through and becomes a key player. But no, I trust Kieran Trippier there. I don't like having a right-footed left back. So hopefully Luke Shaw can get back as soon as possible. But other than that, I thought the defence did really well yesterday.
Yeah, we definitely did. But if to relate it to a Middlesbrough perspective, and obviously, there's going to be Middlesbrough fans listening to this because it's the Middlesbrough podcast, but it was like Rav van den Berg at right back where he just wasn't getting forward. And then we had so many issues on that right-hand side for weeks. I think with Trippier, it's like more so that he's really good. I would say now, defensively, he's probably his strongest output. I remember when he was at Spurs, going forward, he was probably more an attacking fullback, and then when he moved to Atletico Madrid, I feel like his game just completely changed. And credit to him to really master his weakness and make it into a strength. But now going forward, it did feel just a bit like just not right. But there was definitely still things that we could have done. But we'll come on to it in just a moment. But can you guys, and this is an open question, of course, anyone can take it, but it's just the case of, can you guys understand why there was frustrations yesterday from a lot of England fans, just around the performance, around the game? England should have scored more. Can you guys understand why there was frustrations at all?
I think there's always going to be that with England fans. I think it's never quite good enough, is it? Regardless of what England do, context is key. Our opening games in Euros, as we've mentioned, have been pretty dire over the years. And I think maybe England fans have looked at Germany rocking up, putting 5 past Scotland, Spain putting 3 past Croatia. And naturally, you want us to obviously hit the ground running pretty quick. But then equally, as Dee said earlier in the pod, you don't want to you don't want to peak too early at the same time. And I think past winners in Italy and Portugal have proven that you can quite easily warm up into a tournament. And I think just getting through the group is the most important thing. You want to really start going through the gears in the group. So I think it was just England fans being England fans. I can see why, with our attacking talent, you want to see Southgate maximise that. And I think that has been an ongoing issue that people have a right to sort of, have a bit of a, be a little bit upset over, because I still do think he doesn't get the most out of the players we have. But I think it's a conversation that I think we should be having at the end of the group rather than now. I think 3 points was just the most important thing in that opening game, more than anything else.
England fans always love them on, though, don't they? It's like kind of Borough fans, but amplified. I get it based on game state and the fact that England obviously got themselves into the lead. Can we talk about Jude Bellingham's goal, by the way? Because, God, it was so good to watch that ball hit the back of the net. That's a bullet header and a half. And actually, I'm just going to spend a little minute or two just talking about it, because I really like how it's manufactured. Kyle Walker down that right-hand side. Bellingham finds Walker firstly, so he starts the move and then finishes it. But it's that slip ball through to Saka. And if you watch how it takes the left wing-back Kostic out of the game, then the left-sided centre-half has to come over to Saka. Then everyone kind of switches over and has to recover each other's position. And it allows that space for Bellingham to not only crash into the box, as I've heard it described quite frequently, but to get his head on the end of that cross. And it was really weird that the camera focused on the Serbian number 2 straight after the goal. It was like the camera operator just decided to click a button and be like, yeah, that's the money shot. But what we talking about, the kind of frustrations, obviously you get yourself into that position. And I think England fans, they probably want, and I wanted us to kind of assert more of our dominance or convert that dominance into a 2-0 scoreline or add to the lead. And I feel like Southgate is pragmatic, isn't he? And I think that he will have known that the fitness isn't quite there with this England team, which is, I mean, let's be honest, he picked the squad, so it's his doing. This is the risk that he's taken. So I think he would have wanted England to kind of, I don't know, be a little bit more economic and not overexert themselves. Because he did say that they expended a lot of energy in that first half, which is why you saw England drop deeper to defend. So yeah, I can definitely see the frustration based on the performance and how we just didn't kick on in that second half. And in the end, we were pretty lucky that I think we came out of that game with 3 points, because there was also a chance that I forgot to mention. Just after Luka Jovic came on, the ball was threaded into him in the box and his touch eluded him. If it was Mitrovic on the pitch still, or if Luka Jovic had an extra 10 minutes or so to fully get into the game, he could have trapped that easily and England could have been in danger. So yeah, there's I can understand it.
I completely agree with what Dan has just said there. I think for me as well, there's always kind of like this. I mean, it's been going on, especially last tournament, I would say, but there's a kind of anti-Southgate sort of agenda. So if we have a result like this, you're going to hear about it. I remember, when was it? Was it the Euros when we last played Scotland?
Yeah,
I think we drew 0-0.
That 0-0.
Yeah. I remember writing like an article and I shared it with you, and I was like, I'm going to publish this, and it was like in defense of Southgate, and that for me, like, when he was Borough manager, I'd have been the last person defending Southgate because I just wanted him gone at that point. But like, I think our squad, especially at that point, was just kind of getting so overhyped, and it's just like we should be battering everyone 4 and 5-0, and you don't take into account anything else that's going on, kind of in the game or outside of the game. In this game, whether or not it was, the whole psychological thing we mentioned earlier, the fitness with England. With the Scotland game, it was possibly the fact that the media were hyping it up for about a week before and pretty much giving Scotland their team talk for them. And, making the England players quite complacent, going, oh yeah, England going to roll over Scotland here and it's going to be no problem at all. Scotland looked the most fired up for a game I've ever seen them when they played us. So, that type of stuff goes on, but then the game will play out as it does. But then all you'll get off Twitter and other people is just kind of like, Southgate's terrible manager and this is all his fault. Yeah. Why are we not battering these teams? So I think yesterday I can understand sensible frustration, but then when people are kind of going over the top with it or just using it as a stick to beat Southgate with, that I can't really get because of where he has taken this England team in previous tournaments.
Yeah, and like on that as well, like with England fans, I feel at times, and like obviously when there's a tournament on, it feels like why can't, like, instead of going to Tenerife, why don't we go to 11 Reef? Like, do you know what I mean? Like it has to be more than what we currently do. Like, there's no guarantees of football. Like that 1-0 win for me was like, it felt like a big win, and it sounds ridiculous given that it was against maybe like a Serbia side that isn't probably going to go as far as we think they are in the tournament, but they've still got really good players in that setup. It showed different sides of our game, and I don't think we lack match fitness. I think we lack sharpness. We've had a month off. Players being away, they're getting back to used to things. And it's just that sharpness that'll slowly start to come back as the tournament goes on. And hopefully, fingers crossed that things can get better. But we've got the quality there. It's getting the balance right, which we'll come on to in just a moment. And it's really just understanding how do we get the best out of us in the coming games. And I think we'll do that. And it'll take time for us to do that. But we'll chat about Phil Foden, shall we? Because he was the man on everyone's lips at the end of the game. In the press conference, Southgate was asked about him. In the match day, talk afterwards, the post match with Gary Lineker, Micah Richards, Cesc Fabregas, they were all talking about Phil Foden. So we're really keen to see how we get the best out of it. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question. How do England get the best out of Phil Foden?
For me, I think we could probably look at... I mean, this is going to be dependent on Luke Shaw's fitness, but playing a left-footed left-back who can actually overlap him. I did think Kieran Trippier was a little bit... I won't say defensive-minded yesterday, but it's not the right position for him to be contributing to the attack. And for me, if you've got a player playing left mid who's wanting to cut inside, I'd at least want to have an overlapping option that, he can turn back around to and play to, rather than potentially cutting inside and running into 4 or 5 Serbian players. You look at the balance that we had on the right hand side, and you saw it for the build up on the goal. Kyle Walker with the through ball to Saka, which ended up paying off in terms of the cross. I don't think we had the same on that left hand side, and we've all seen previously how effective Luke Shaw can be at left back. I feel like you need to give Foden more options to get the best out of him in that position.
That's where Southgate's selection comes into it, and everybody highlighted left back as a problem area for us. And I think you put Joe Gomez in your team as well, Tom, but like, he's a right footer, so you would probably have a similar problem, to be honest. And I said that he's better defensively than Trippier, but it's not like a massive difference between the two. He should have brought in Tyrick Mitchell. I really truly do not know why he didn't. So I think that's probably one of the it was a risk, wasn't it, to kind of go with Shaw and hope that he gets fit, but we all knew that he wouldn't be fit. So now we're seeing the direct consequences of not having that left-footed left back that can overlap. Because if you look at England's passing networks in the game yesterday, there is absolutely no option down that left-hand side. And we knew that it was going to be the case with Trippier, because for some reason, Southgate just decides that he is a left back for England more than any other manager at club level has. So he's played once at left back at club level, and now 14 times for England at left back. So it's like, this is the ramifications of that, unfortunately. It's Southgate's selection, and that was the risk that he wanted to take. And that's, what we saw yesterday. The lack of a left-hand side is basically what you see from that. And it definitely doesn't help Phil Foden.
Yeah, and like for me as well, I just think that there's probably 2 or 3 things to maybe get the best out of Foden, or to try and improve things. I think it's on him as well. I think it's on Phil Foden to try and find a way to get his form for England. And in a way, I feel like Phil Foden's became so systemized under Pep that he's expecting certain things to happen, like certain rotations, someone to come into a certain space. And when you become so like system focused or system player, it can be really difficult to have that natural creativity again. When you look at Jack Grealish now, he's lost so much of what made him great. But maybe that's the thing that you have to give away to win trophies in a certain system. But for me, I think Phil Foden needs to have that freedom to do what he likes, and if he does do that, then that's absolutely brilliant. Because if you are able to maybe put him on the right, or when you put him on the left, but if you give him that ability to do what he needs to, then he'll have that success. But for me, I think he just became too much of a system player. I don't know what you guys think on that.
I agree completely. It's exactly what I've written down here in my notes. He plays in a staunchly choreographed team under Pep. Exactly what you said there, Johnny, and it's those rehearsed patterns of players and knowing exactly where to be and what area of the pitch at what time, and it's so choreographed. And I think the difference between Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham is that Jude Bellingham is playing in the position that Phil Foden probably wants to play, and all England fans want Jude Bellingham to play in. But Jude Bellingham, I feel like he demands the ball, whereas with Phil Foden, quite often he's on the periphery of the game because he waits for the ball. And also the difference between the two of them is at club level, obviously, as we said there, it's almost maybe overcooked tactically with Pep, which is fine at club level, but it does him no favours in an England shirt. Jude plays under Carlo Ancelotti, who obviously there's a structure there, but I think in the Champions League this season, we've seen Real Madrid kind of, Ancelotti places a little bit more importance on individual responsibility and kind of, letting them kind of go and do their own thing to a degree. So yeah, for me, I think the sooner that England fans realise that Phil Foden doesn't hold the key to England's success, the easier they'll probably sleep at night. Everyone's thinking, get Phil Foden in that team. I don't think we need Phil Foden in that team, really, truly. I think he's disposable. And that is whilst acknowledging what an uber talent he is. But in terms of team cohesion, especially if you don't have that overlapping left back, he does not fit. So that's why I was surprised Anthony Gordon didn't come on. But then I guess off the back of that, Gareth Southgate wants to keep Phil Foden on because he could potentially come up with a really big moment. And I think that's maybe why he played the full 90, because if a chance presented itself to Phil Foden, I'd be pretty confident that he could put it away.
There was another point that I actually heard on TalkSport yesterday, and again, surprised that they made a good one. But it kind of lines up with what you've just said there about keeping Foden on and not bringing Anthony Gordon on. I don't know who it was who was the core commentator, but they had something to do with management or coaching in the past, and they were talking about their experience, and they said it's easy for us to kind of sit in the stands, watch a game, and say we should be bringing him off, putting him on, but we're not emotionally attached as Southgate will be to some of the players. So it might be the fact that you take Phil Foden off and kind of kills his confidence a little bit for the next game, and we don't get the best out of him for the rest of the tournament. That type of view, I can see the point of, and I can agree with. Keeping him on there, and you'd hope that he will spring up with a moment or two. Because I was saying to you guys before we started, like I don't watch a lot of the Premier League. With Borough not being in it, I'm not really that interested, to be honest. I'll watch the occasional game, but every time I've kind of tuned in this season, I feel like I've seen Phil Foden scoring a worldie. And I was looking at it thinking, oh, he's better than the last time I was probably paying attention to the Premier League. He is improving, but I don't watch it enough week in, week out to make that sort of opinion on Phil Foden, especially taking him out of that team and putting him in the England setup. But I'm sure that he does have more to offer based on the limited amounts that I have seen. But maybe there are better options that we can maybe start with and then bring him on just for that kind of confidence boost. But again, it just kind of goes back to the fact that it is easy for us to sit here and say this is what we should do, but we don't know kind of what's going on in the camp at the moment.
Yeah, you absolutely don't. And I think with Foden, for me, it's just like that. I think he just needs that freedom. I think he just needs to. You've seen Cole Palmer do it where he's left City and he's had more of an individual purpose on the pitch. He's been able to unlock all the potential that everyone, people at City definitely thought he had. But that is like the pros and cons of being a really system footballer and being a fully individual footballer. Like, there is pros and cons to both. But for Foden now, I think there's probably two more options. You either put Saka on the left and put Foden on the right and put him in a more natural position, but that may not work. But at least you'll get someone to put a ball in the box like Saka can. Or you put him on the bench and you give someone else another opportunity to hopefully kick things on a bit further. But in terms of other players, we mentioned earlier around Southgate playing players that aren't in the natural position. Trent Alexander-Arnold playing in midfield. Of course, there was a big talking point around it before the Euros, and playing the number 8 role yesterday. Anyone got any thoughts on that? For me, he looked a little bit comfortable. He looked comfortable in that first 20 minutes, and then as the game went on, I felt like England, he tired and wasn't as great as like everyone else was really. So I don't want to put like an individual thing on him, but I just thought he was good in spells and he showed his weaknesses as well. So I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on that.
I think he had a mixed game, didn't he? I don't really want to see Trent in midfield, mostly because I think it changes how he sees the game. At right back, he can see the whole picture. And isn't that what you want from a player like Trent, who is got fantastic vision and also a world-class passing range? You don't want him to receive the ball with his back to goal. You don't want everything to be around him, basically. You want everything to be in front of him as best you can. So obviously he drifted into that right-hand space, but I think I do want to see him right back. But then if you play him right back, does that take Kyle Walker out of the team entirely? I don't think that would be an entirely bad thing. But then if he stays in, there's that kind of domino effect. You probably then take Matt Gahey out, and I thought Matt Gahey was good yesterday against Serbia. I think he actually outperformed John Stones. So yeah, he's in midfield because he's in midfield out of necessity because we don't have any other options there that can truly like kind of give you that passing range in midfield alongside Declan Rice. So yeah, Southgate has to kind of get the balance right, up front, but also in midfield as well. And it wasn't awful from Trent, but it was a mixed game, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I think at this stage of the tournament, when we're probably going to be dominating the ball and we're going to be taking the game to the opposition, playing an inferior side who are going to sit back, I think that's when he's best suited, and I feel more comfortable with him in there. But I'd be lying if I said I felt comfortable if Trent was in a midfield and we were playing a France or one of the top nations, because I feel like we would get overrun quite easy. And we saw there was one point, I think we mentioned it, when he took a heavy touch, and I think it was Mitrovic who latched on to the opportunity, and a better striker, a more prolific striker, might have punished us in that situation. So I don't mind it now when he has the ability to unlock a defence or play. I mean, he played some really good diagonals last night and some really good long balls. But yeah, if we're having this conversation again in the knockouts and we're playing a very, very good side, I probably wouldn't want him alongside Declan Rice in that midfield. And I don't really think there's anywhere in the defence for him either, because I don't really rate him defensively. I'd rather have Walker at right back against a really good side. So I'd have him here for now, but post the group stages, when we start playing better sides, I don't know where he fits in, if I'm honest.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of like that as well, to be fair. I have the same thought that you have around how's he going to fare up against a better nation. But it's weird because when you watch him for Liverpool, he is in that area, so it does make sense. But it's just as the game goes on, it doesn't really work as strong, because when he's in that position for his club, they're in possession, and they're playing football, and the dominating teams, they're pinning them back. But in this case, when against these better teams, he's probably not going to have the ball as much. So I echo your thoughts on them, Matt, on that one. Tom, I don't know if you have anything on Trent.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with something Matt said, where I also wouldn't feel comfortable with him in that centre midfield space if we were playing a France, a Germany, etc. I think yesterday, and like I say, I don't really tune into the Premier League that much, so I don't know what he's been doing for Liverpool. But yesterday in that game, he seemed a bit of a luxury to have in midfield. In that type of game, you give him the time on the ball, he does have that range of passing. I at least know that, and he can unlock a defence. However, if you go into a game where you do need a little bit more in midfield, bit more progression, I would say, and not so much kind of slowing the game down, looking for that kind of perfect diagonal or perfect pass. I think you got to play someone like Conor Gallagher in there alongside Declan Rice, just to kind of add that to the team.
I was just going to ask, and that might be your answer there, Tom. Who would you feel comfortable with in midfield? Because I look at our options, and you've got Wharton, you've got Manu. They're both incredibly inexperienced. Obviously, Manu came on yesterday. You've got Gallagher. I think that was a perfect substitute because he gives you that energy, which I think England needed in that second half. But I don't know if I'm missing anybody. It just doesn't feel like there's someone there that is absolutely, definitively the partner for Declan Rice. So I think whoever plays there's always going to be a problem for me.
This is why you don't take Conor Gallagher and you take Johnny Howson instead, because he can do it all at 36 years old. But honestly, it is a struggle to pick someone to be in that position. For me, Conor Gallagher is probably my pick, but like you say, it's because Wharton and Manu are both quite inexperienced. I know that Manu's been doing quite well for Man United, but in his first international tournament, do you want to be putting that kind of pressure on him? I'm not so sure.
His best partner is sat at home. It's Calvin Phillips. It's such a shame that he's had a really poor well, since he signed for Man City, just completely fell off a cliff, really, in terms of his performances. But again, I feel like I'm shitting on Pep a little bit here, but like I think he's fantastic. But again, like some players just don't suit sometimes system way of playing or a specific system, because he fitted the Bielsa way, but he just didn't fit this heavy possession based system because he was so used to intercepting more and more and being in the right position, where this time it's just not right. But was there anyone, guys, who you'd like to kind of praise for the game yesterday? Because I think I have one player I think definitely deserves praise, and that was Mark Gay. I thought he was absolutely amazing yesterday, and you know, he's been great for Crystal Palace for probably the last year and a bit, like really, and like, he's been under the radar quite a lot. And I think it's natural in the Premier League because you're not like a top 6 club. You don't get all of the TV, and you don't get all the pundits knowing who you are and where you should be. And but I think he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. I think he didn't miss anything. He was really, really good. And I'd just like to see more of him. I think he's going to grow at this tournament. I think his profile's only going to get bigger. Now that I've said that, he's going to have an absolute fucking shite game on Thursday. And I've absolutely mob cursed him a little bit. But overall, I think he definitely deserves praise. I thought he was arguably England's best player yesterday, bar I think Bellingham, who was again tremendous as always. But Matt, I don't know if you have anyone who's in your say praise and place.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gay, he's definitely scoring an own goal against Denmark.
100%, yeah.
100% it's happening. He was on my list as well. I thought he looked really, really composed, given it was his first competitive tournament match for England. I know passing stats can be quite overrated in terms of, I don't think he misplaced a pass in the first half, but I think that just that amount of composure in a game such as that, I think was quite impressive, and he didn't really put a foot wrong. And that was another question mark alongside John Stones. Is he going to step up? Obviously, we mentioned we feel a bit more comfortable with Maguire there, possibly that experience. But I think for his first game, he did really well. And I think Bellingham goes without saying. We could praise him for an hour and do an entire podcast on him if we wanted to. But I thought Declan Rice did well as well. I thought he was in the right place at the right time, and maybe his performance went under the radar a little bit. I don't even think they touched upon it on BBC actually, but there was quite a few moments where in and around the box, he picked up some really crucial interceptions and second balls, which had they fallen to a Serbian attacker, they might have had a shot on goal. He was just always there in the right place. And I think maybe his time at Arsenal, he's been maybe more looked at as an 8, but I think he showed that he's still got them very good defensive abilities that he had at West Ham when he was arguably more of a 6. And I thought he protected the back line really well. So I thought Declan Rice was quite an understated performance, but I thought he deserves a lot of praise as well.
I think for my praise and place, you've mentioned him already. He has to go in there, Jude Bellingham. For me, I mean, I've seen him play international tournaments before. He's just going from strength to strength for me, and what I really noticed yesterday was that sort of elite mentality that has really developed for him. And I think that's something that you need to thrive at Real Madrid. Obviously at the start of the season, I remember he was competing with big names like Kike Garcia and Stuani for top scorer in the in La Liga. It was them 3 at the top. So to have that sort of competition, you need that sort of elite mentality to cope. But you could just tell from his performance. There was that volley that he made, that volley pass over to Kyle Walker on the right hand side. It was just so casual. But then I also love the when he made that tackle and then just got up and squared up to that Serbian winger who was just didn't have a clue what he was going to do, and then just seemed confused by it all. I was just like, for 20 years old, and you were doing this in an international tournament, you're going to be some player. Like, you're going to have, I mean, he's already some player. You're going to have some career to brag about in 15 years' time, maybe, because, I would put him, I don't want to speak too soon, in terms of that mentality up there with like Ronaldo and of what I think he can accomplish. So really looking forward to seeing what he can bring in this tournament and future tournaments as well. And I will also put Jordan Pickford into the praise and place. for me, he didn't have a lot to do, but he made a couple of vital saves. And late in the game, as a goalkeeper, I think it's probably easier to make those saves when you've had quite a few to make up until that point. But to maintain your focus up until, what was it, like 70th, 80th minute or something, and still be pulling those saves out, other than the fact that he was still being fearless with his distribution all the way through the game. But to have that sort of focus that even late in the game to make your first save, and it's as big of a save as it was, I think deserves some praise.
I'm going to go with Jude as well. I'm going to echo everyone saying that. I think Jude Bellingham embodies the phrase, he's him. Like, honest to God, he is such an elite talent. And I think we saw yesterday why he gets played as a number 10 and why he should play there. There's maybe a call for him to play as that number 8 alongside Declan Rice just because there's no other option there. But I think he's best further forward where he can get into the box late and he can drop deep if need be to win the ball back. And I think he was a monster in his duels yesterday. I really enjoyed his performance. And the guy at Playbrew who had Bellingham on the back of his shirt must have been absolutely buzzing with the goal he scored, which again is so satisfying to watch. I keep replaying it. So Bellingham absolutely in there. And I just want to mention Bukayo Saka as well because I love him, but also because he's now got 27 goal contributions in 24 starts for England. So he is, as far as dependable England players go, I think Bukayo Saka is definitely up there.
So then let's look ahead to Thursday, the 5 o'clock kickoff. We'll be at Playbrew again watching it. And it was really good last night. So more of that for me, please. Wins and pizzas and beer. But let's get your predictions then. Matt, I'll come to you first. What are you going to predict against Denmark? Do you think we'll win, draw, lose, match abandoned? What do you think?
I'm going to say 2-1. I think it'll be another ugly game, but we'll take a few steps forward. Don't know about the clean sheet, but we'll do enough to get the win and we'll be safely through, and then we can play the kids against Slovenia.
Again, well, it might need the kids for Sparata score, to be honest. Like, good God, not a chance seeing this. I'm cursing this because he's bound to score now that I've been taking the piss out of him. Dana, what's your predictions?
I think I'll go with 2-0 England, building on the 1-0 win yesterday, which I correctly predicted, actually. I also correctly predicted that Phil Foden will be the scapegoat post-match. So if anybody wants the lottery numbers, please just give me a DM. But yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0 England, and people will still moan.
For you, Tom, what are you going to go for? And you're mute, Tom.
Tomorrow, but predictions, I'm going to go 2-0 England as well. I think we will build on it. I mean, I watched the Denmark game yesterday. Wasn't particularly impressed by Denmark. Wasn't particularly impressed by England either, but we've got Bellingham and they haven't. So,
and what's your score prediction going to be?
2-0. Already said it.
Yeah. I know you're on mute, that's why.
I really want to know what that whole kind of prelude was there before he realised that he was on mute, because all we heard was tomorrow.
He was singing 3 lines.
I didn't even realise I was on mute. I thought I had unmuted myself, but all I started with was Dana shot me the lottery numbers over because I'm going to be putting it on tomorrow.
Oh, and there we go then. Thank God you said that there, otherwise I'd have never known to give you the lottery numbers there, Tom.
Well, fair enough then. I'm not going to have them. So Tom wins more money and he'll share some out with me. But I want to go with, I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, I think. I think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think Denmark will score from a set piece and we'll go on to equalise later on. But who knows? It's England. We need to cook up something as the tournament goes on. But guys, thank you very much for joining me. As always, listeners and viewers, thank you very much for watching and listening to us. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider and give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment as well if you like what we're doing and getting with the discussion as well. But for right now, this has been the Borough Breakdown podcast, and that was all your England chatter in a pod. Up the England. Oh, I need to say Borough. I'm so not used to it yet. I'm just not used to it. That was all the England chat in a pod. Up the England.